All right, well, good evening, everybody. Welcome back, or good morning, I should say. I hope everyone's having a good day. Today is, let's see, what is today? Thursday. Today's Thursday. I just figured I would give everyone a little update this morning on everything that's going on. And I've been working on the massy Ferguson, not the second one, the first one, the 79. And if you can't tell, I'm a little chugged up. I've got it. I didn't have it Monday, Tuesday I had a sore throat, and yesterday I was sick as a dog. Didn't get through much. I did do a little work down here. But as you can see here, I took all the sheet metal off, and the fuel gauge quit working back in the summer. It just pegged to full all the time, and I've been trying to figure that out. Got a new sending unit, and this is a mess because I'm gonna have to drill the sending unit out. The holes don't line up, and every one we found will not work. So we're just gonna make it work. And come on, focus. Anyways, there's a bunch of wiring on the ground, as you can see. It turns out whoever had really done anything in depth on this tractor before me, instead of taking wires out, they just left them all in there. If you remember back in some of my other videos, all the wires were hanging here, and there was like three cables and wrapped up in that plastic stuff that just dry rotted. And I always wanted to check and see if everything was right. And it used to have a Delco Remy amp regulator, and it has an inverter over there that I hadn't took off yet. And I've got the manual, and I went through and looked at everything, and everything was wired up like it's supposed to be. There just wasn't no generator. Whoever changed this over to an alternator instead of a generator, they cut the wires loose from the alternator, but instead of taking all the wires off that didn't need it, they just taped them up and left them all ran to the alternator and just used the wire they needed. So all that was hanging there unnecessarily. And I like my tractor to look clean. I like it to look neat, you know, look like somebody did it and did what they knew what they were doing. Not saying that I do, but that's what I like for it to look like. And I had done this too, just because I didn't know no better. And I've gotten a lot better at doing this wiring on tractors since I've owned this tractor. This was the fuse that somebody had put on there. It's got two wires coming from it. And I had 5 things running off of this. And it had a bunch of those little blue things. Where are they at? I cut them all off, but there's little blue things that right there, down there, that little blue thing that you mash together, the splicers, I guess is what they are. I don't know exactly the term for them. But it had like 5 of them on there, and I got tired of looking at it because it was a mess, and I'd have to work on it. I've worked on this wiring on this tractor for the past 3 times. I just never did feel confident enough just to go in and rewire everything. And my dad was down here working on it. And we have done some work to the steering. My right tie rod kept coming loose, and we fixed that. And this steering, it's still got a little play in it, and we've adjusted it and redone some things to make it a lot tighter. And this shaft that we bought is we paid $340 for that shaft, the steering shaft. Well, the original one had a grease zerk, which was drilled down, and then had 2 spigots coming out in the center down there where the shims are. Well, we bought this shaft, and it didn't have that, so I just kept oiling it through the year, trying to get through the year so we could maybe try and fix it, or have one of our local machine shops drill it and do it like it's supposed to be. Well, me and Dad got to thinking, and there's only 2 shims. There's one at the top and one at the bottom. And we took the shaft out and found where the shim ended, and just drilled and tapped us a grease zerk in there for greasing it, so we don't have to worry about it. And it ain't touching the shaft. The housing ain't thick. It's too thick for the even grease fitting even to think about going through. So we got all that fixed. Got it put back together. Now it's back like it needs to be. It was really worrying me because I didn't want to have to, take this thing out every 2 years and put new bushings in it because we wasn't greasing it because we couldn't. That was really worrying me, but we fixed that. And back to the wiring. So this thing was, they had wires I pulled, half of these wires were just sitting there, not connected to nothing, and it drove me nuts, but I didn't know what to do, so I just didn't mess with it. Well, I just went ahead and made the decision I'm going to put all new gauges in it because the tachometer, the hour meter don't work, the oil pressure switch is starting to leak, and the temperature gauge is messed up. Even though it's a brand new gauge, it's not, I don't know what's wrong with it, but it ain't right working. And I need a new fuel gauge. I have a new fuel gauge, but it's not the right one for the sending unit I have. So I just went, I could buy a whole new set of gauges. I spent nearly $40 on a whole new set of gauges. So I got that done. And then that fuse, I really wanted to fix that, but I couldn't find anything. And our parts guy up in Coleman, he is really good about this kind of stuff. He will, if he knows what you're talking about and what you want, he will find it and he will get it. It's sort of like on the John Deere. We've had that thing, the air compressor, air conditioning tore apart 3, 4, 6 different times, and it was all because we couldn't find the right O-rings. Well, it took him nearly a month to find them, but he found the right O-rings, and that's the kind of guy he is. He's really good. We've known him for a long time. He's really been good to us. So he didn't have this, but he found it for me. It's a fuse block. It's got 5 fuse holders, and I just got it zip tied because I didn't want to bolt it because I didn't have the right bolts, and I had to make me jumpers because I didn't want to run 6 wires from the battery because that would get a lot of wires. So I just made me 5 jumpers and used a splice, which is where's it at? There it is. I like this set. The cheapest place I found to buy these is Amazon. I bought this whole kit for $25. You're going to spend more than that on a kit half the size with half the least amount of these. And it comes with these little splicers here, which work great for that. That's what I use them for. But I would highly advise if you use them, go on Amazon and get them. We use them, and I shrink wrap everything now. I've got some shrink tube here that a friend of mine gave me that came from NASA. I don't know where it went, but you shrink it down and it turns into hard plastic. It don't bend. It's very, very good stuff. So I've started using that, or I've started using the Harbor Freight shrink tube, whichever one I can use, I use. So yeah, this is all for the amp gauge. This is so instead of this crazy mess, so what they've done is this is your wire going to your starter switch over there, and then your other wire goes down to the safety switch, and it goes through the safety switch to the starter. And this is the safety switch wire. But what they had done is they had a wire running from the alternator, run to the amp gauge. Then from the amp gauge, they had a wire going to the starter, and they had the switch wire attached to that too. And so how it was getting charged to the battery, it was running all the way back down to the starter and then going back through the main cable. That's a lot of wires. I wanted it to look clean, so I just run a wire straight to the battery. I didn't see any problem with that because the regulators are all in the alternator now instead of having to have it bolted on here. So that's what we done, and I've just got it here so I can crank it if I need to, but to keep them all together. This is the wire for the fuel gauge. I had to rig up. I had to give it power. This here is my light wires. All the dash lights didn't work. I rigged up all new light wires for the gauges. Put me a new toggle in. I put a metal toggle in so they all match. Excuse me. I replaced the O-rings in the lift because back in the summer, one of our guys put it in constant pumping going down the road. And if any of y'all know what that is, basically puts a pump in mode that just constantly pumps with nowhere to go. Like if you're running a splitter or something with the hydraulics, that's what that would be for. Well, when you're on lift, which is this lever locked back, it puts all the pressure to the pump or to the lift cylinder, which picks up the lift up and down. And he put it in constant pumping with basically just shoved the lift all the way up and basically dead ended the pump. And it blew the O-rings out, and I only had one set of O-rings, so we put one set of O-rings and just put a set of cheap O-rings on the bottom that we just had here. And it kept leaking down a little bit, so I wanted to get them fixed and put new O-rings in it, so I did that the other day. But, so anyways, I've been going on here for 11 minutes, so I better get off of here, but anyways, as soon as I get Mother Mass Ferguson, I'm going to try to put videos on here of every step of what I do, of how to do it, because there is some videos on YouTube, but there's not a lot of detailed different stuff. I just want to show you what to do. Like if one of them videos wouldn't have been on there, Dad started taking all these 4 bolts here. And I told him, I said, I don't think we should take those off. And we went to pull the housing off, and I told him, I said, let's leave them bolts in there and just try to get it off. And when we took it off, this is where the cylinder bolts for the lift. And if we took that off, it fell down on the pump and probably broke something. So, you know, it's stuff like that you don't know, or you've got to take that there's a little dowel pin in there you got to take loose for the lift to be able to pull the top cover off for the lift control. And I wouldn't have been able to research it on the internet. I wouldn't have never known that, and we'd have pulled the top off and ripped that thing in half. So, you know, it's stuff like that I really want to show people and make sure they know before they tear into this, because there is a little tricks to stuff. You know, there's nothing complicated. It's just you got to have a little common sense about you to do it. But anyways, I got to get on to something else. Y'all have a good day. Hope you have a wonderful day.